Hi, friend. We've arrived to our Exodus chapter 24 wrap up. I'm so thankful that you're here. Thank you for being brave to enter into the rest of the Exodus journey. I don't know about you, but God certainly touched my heart this week through Exodus chapter 24. I think we get a glimmer of his heart, that he desires fellowship with his people. So just going back to the beginning of the chapter and really the beginning of this third book in our series, we had to do a bit of a review. We have to put Exodus chapter 24 in context. And so we just thought about the when. When does this passage take place? And this took place after the Lord had called the people of Israel to be his treasured possession, to be this kingdom of priests, to be this holy nation that will live set apart amongst all the other nations. They are going to live in a way that bring glory to Yahweh. So love that. The Lord has brought the people up out of Egypt. That's where we ended book 1 of our series. And in book 2, we ended in chapter 23 with the Lord saying, look, I am bringing you to the land that I have promised to bring you. And we talked about how it is the Lord that does the bringing work, right? He brought them out of this house of slavery. They're on this journey. He is with them. He is bringing them to the promised land. And just making clear that this is the Lord's work. He does the bringing work, right? This is his. We kind of remembered back, there was nothing the people could do to bring themselves out of the land of Egypt. And really, there was nothing they could do to get themselves to the promised land, right? They wouldn't have made it past the Red Sea. So this work is the Lord's work and his alone. And now what we see is the Lord is inviting the people to serve him. That's kind of where that second book ended. He invites them to be this kingdom of priests and to serve him and him alone. And that was the purpose of all these rules and regulations that he gives. He doesn't just leave them in the dark on what their service should look like to him, what it looks like to worship and obey Yahweh. No, He's a good God, and he gives his good instructions to the people. So this is where we are in Exodus chapter 24. We're still at Mount Sinai, and this takes place after the Lord has invited them to be this kingdom of priests. And so now what did we see in Exodus chapter 24? Well, we see God inviting them. He's extending an invitation to the leaders of the people to come up to him, and not just come up to the mountain, but to come up to him on the mountain. And we see this for almost kind of a formal ceremony that seals the deal of this covenant agreement. That's not a word we use very often, but it's a formal contract that the Lord and the people are entering in together. It's a promise. It's almost like a wedding in a sense, right? We're promising to be with one another and to serve one another. And we saw in Exodus chapter 24 here, there was really there was a formal ceremony of the people agreeing to the Lord's invitation to be his people. This was in day 2 this week. All the words that the Lord has spoken, we will do. They spoke that once, and then Moses wrote out the commands of the Lord, and there was this formal ceremony where once again the people say, all that the Lord has spoken we will do, and we will be obedient. And then we saw Moses take that blood of the covenant, the blood of the covenant, and sprinkle it on the people. And we talked about it on that day. Like, that's kind of hard for us to understand what to do with it in the 21st century. We don't have anything like that. Thankfully, Jesus has become the sacrificial lamb, and we don't have to go around sacrificing animals. But this was significant. This blood of the covenant, this seals the deal. It shows that God is receiving, like, this blood of the covenant, the blood of the animal. We talked about it. Blood signifies life. Blood signifies life in the Old Testament of the Bible. And something must die to atone for the sins of the sinner, right? Something must die. And so the sprinkling of the blood of an animal is really this solemn reminder that God receives a sinful people who are worthy of death. God receives them as his treasured possession and grants them life, really grants them abundant life. So that sprinkling of the blood is a solemn reminder. And if we think about it, I don't think I talked about this on day 2, but if we think about that sprinkling of the blood, that's going to stain, right? That's going to remain on people's clothing. Like, it may fade over time, but there are going to be spots there, and that will always be a remembrance of this covenant that they have made. They've given their verbal consent to the Lord, that they are entering into this binding agreement with him. But also, this symbolizes God's binding agreement, his faithful covenant, his faithful promise that he will be true to his word, that they will always be his treasured possession. All right. So there's a lot of beautiful symbolism. I'm not sure I have verbalized this in the most beautiful way, but I have sought to do that. Wow, I kind of feel like I'm stumbling over my words. I'm so sorry. All right. The summary for this week's passage: the Lord invites the leaders of the people now to come up to him on the mountain. This took place after that blood of the covenant, that formal ceremony where the people receive God's invitation. And now God extends this invitation to the leaders. This is all part of, like, if we put on our ancient Near East glasses, we would see when you enter into a contractual agreement with someone else, that agreement is almost always sealed with a meal, with eating and drinking. And we see that happen here too. This feast, this eating and drinking, points to an alliance. It points to fellowship. It points to friendship with God. And what was absolutely amazing and miraculous, and we don't want to just skip over this, is that the leaders see God. They behold him, is the word that Moses uses. And we don't get a lot of details on that. We talked about that. We'd like a few more details on what they saw. We do know that they saw the glory of the Lord, that he was present with them as they ate and drank and feasted. And then on the last day, we see Moses giving instructions to the elders of Israel. They are to wait for him because the Lord has invited Moses himself to come further up the mountain to be with him. And so Moses gives instructions to the elders. He gives instructions for Aaron and Hur. He kind of leaves them in command. And then he ascends up the mountain with his assistant Joshua too. That was kind of interesting. But I loved how yesterday began. This was verse 12. The Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and wait there, that I may give you the tablets of stone with the law and the commandment which I have written for their instructions." And just remembering what these tablets of stone represent. This represents God's words, his regulations for this covenant promise that the people have made with him and he's made with the people. And this is for their good. This is for their good. They're not just bumping around in the dark, wondering how it is we are to serve Yahweh. No, he gives very clear instructions. This is his grace. But I love these words in verse 12. And if I was just to kind of simplify it and put it in Carmen's words, after looking up some of the key words, I would say this. God was saying to Moses, Moses, come to me. And he says, wait there. Moses, come to me. This meant be with me. This wait there means to be with me. Moses, come to me. Be with me, and I will give you my word. I love that. I love that. And, Moses has a very unique position in the Old Testament. He does have this intermediary, this intercessory position between God and the people. This is his role. He's kind of a Christ-like figure, right? He is the one leading the people on behalf of God. But if we, peel back some layers and just look at Moses as a man. Maybe look at Moses on just a very, very personal level. Moses is an obedient worshiper. I think this chapter has a lot to do with worship, and Moses is an obedient worship. Every time God gives instructions to Moses, Moses does it. He just does it. He follows through. And here, God invites him, Moses, come to me, be with me, and I will give you my word. And friends, we talked about it. We have this great privilege of living on this side of the cross. Now, because of Jesus becoming that substitute for us, because he has poured out his blood on our behalf, now we all have this invitation through Jesus to come. It's as if God says to each one of us, come to me, just be with me, and I will give you my word. We all have this invitation to enter into the presence of God. That's what that cloud represented. This was God's glory. This is another word to say his presence. And when we come to him, he is very present and even gifts us with his presence in the form of the Holy Spirit today. Oh, friends, God invites you today. He is saying, come to me, just be with me, and I will give you my word. I will show you how to think and how to live and what to do. But first, I just want you to come, obey, trust me, believe in me, and just be with me. Oh, I want to be your friend. I want to have fellowship with you. Friend, have you taken those steps? Do you, and if you have, do you just need to re-acknowledge, Lord, I haven't been your friend lately, and I am coming to you. I want to just be with you in your presence. I want this fellowship with you. I want to learn to worship you and trust you.